The Professor by Nissim Ezekiel. Nissim Ezekiel was an Indian Jewish poet, playwright, editor, and art critic. His specialty lies not only in writing about Indian traditions and ways of life, but also in effectively reflecting the Indianness in his style of using English. A Time to Change, The Unpunished Man, Hymns in Darkness, and collected poems are some of his popular poetic collections. The Professor is about a conversation between two people, a retired professor and one of his former students. They happen to meet after a long gap of time. The professor only speaks throughout the poem, and the student is a mere passive listener. The opening line, "Remember me," suggests that the student could not recognize his professor, and so he volunteers to speak to the student. He then introduces himself as Professor Sheth, who had once taught geography to that student. He further says that he is retired and his health is good. The professor talks about his family. But instead of having a broad thinking, he has a narrow, stereotyped thinking. His views are confined to his family, children, and their material achievements in life. He talks about his three sons. One is sales manager, the other one is bank manager. His third son is a spoiled one. He is not settled in life, so he is considered as black sheep in his family. Then he talks about his two daughters, Sarla and Tarla, who had happily married. He also boasts that he has 11 grandchildren. The professor asks a question to the student. How many issues you have? 3. By issues, he means the children. Then he approves it as good. He further says that these are the days of family planning. He talks about the changing times and the importance of change. He then talks about the change in values. Old values are being replaced by new values. The professor says that he hardly goes out because of his old age. He says that his health is okay with usual aches and pains. No diabetes, no blood pressure, no heart attack. He says proudly that he is still healthy because of good habits that he has cultivated since his youth. This part of the poem proves that the professor is an incorrigible, egocentric, obsessed with his own matters. Then he asks about the health of the student in this way. How is your health keeping? Nicely? I am happy for that. The outward appearance of the student is criticized by the professor. Earlier, the student was very thin like a stick. Now he has become a man of weight and consequence. The professor invites him to his house. With this, the poem ends. A satire is a way of criticizing a person, an idea, or event. In the poem, the professor is the object of satire and is ridiculed by the poet. Through the character of the professor, Ezekiel has satirized the educated, urban middle class. The poet uses a colloquial style, and it provides an opportunity for him to satirize the Indians who use English language with a lot of mistakes, but still they would speak in English rather than in their own mother tongue. Hyperbole means exaggerating something. Ezekiel has shown that Indians have the habit of exaggerating for emphasis. The use of hyperbole is quite apparent in the professor's speech. Examples are: our progress is progressing. Everything is happening with leaps and bounds. You are so thin like stick. The professor is caricatured because of his erroneous dialect. Though the speaker utilizes a number of figures of speech, the language is ineffectual, ungrammatical, and idiomatic. Though it is a quite lengthy conversation between a senior academician and his former student, it does not even verge on academic topics. The professor, as the speaker professes himself to be, neither proves to be an inspiring one academically nor a morally supportive one. The poem brings out the thoughts, views, and feelings of the retired professor who speaks about his sons and daughters, his health, the changing times, and changing values. Written in a colloquial Indian English, the poem is in free verse style without having any regular metrical form. Thus, the poet Ezekiel has intertwined satire, irony, humor, and Indianized English to ridicule the typical Indian mentality which measures a person's success based on monetary gains. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to Expertise English. Thank you.